Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Felix here. Today I'll talk to you about podcasting ego. I train in a martial arts called Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and you have rankings, right? You got a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and black belt in that progression. And the longer you train, the more skilled you get, the more and more belts you get, or higher up in the rankings you get. And I'm a purple belt currently, which means I'm about a little bit past halfway on my journey towards black belt, which is like the aspiration, I think, for a lot of people. And I started noticing something that's happening to me, I guess, for a while now, which is I let my ego get involved. And I was thinking about what does that mean? Because a lot of times in martial arts, people say, like, don't, leave your ego at the door. Don't, or like martial arts kind of diminishes or breaks your ego and helps you remove your ego. And I think that's impossible, I think, for the most part, to completely remove your ego. But you can get better at it. And what does the ego mean? I think what it means to me is that an ego stops you from growth because you have this identity that you have with yourself inside your head about how you are, who you are, where you rank, where you place yourself in the world, and that you protect that at all costs, regardless of if someone comes along and challenges that or challenges your beliefs, or you encounter a situation that shows you that maybe you aren't your identity that you have in your head. It's very uncomfortable when you try everything possible to try to make sure that you go back to acting acting away in the identity that you have in your head. And that's what ego does. It kind of forces you to assume the identity and take action on all the identity, and take action to prove to yourself that you have that same identity. And it sounds kind of good on a surface value that you try to align your actions and your beliefs with the identity you have in your head, but it can also limit you. And that's what happened to me when it came to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It limited me because recently, like on Monday, actually, I was sparring with this I think orange belt, which is like a belt that's reserved for people that are teenagers and younger. But this guy was a killer. He's a beast. He's working super hard. He's making me work, and we're like, wrestling and trying to dominate each other essentially. And I found that I was really closing up my game. I wasn't venturing outside of my comfort zone. I wasn't allowing myself to potentially lose, quote unquote, lose to this younger belt, this younger kid, younger guy, younger training partner, and who has a lower ranking than me. I don't want to lose. So I had this ego. I had this image of myself that I was this particular identity. I could not let that challenge me. I could not let anything challenge that. So I stuck to my game plan that I knew. I would not open up my game. And when you open up your game, when you open up and step out to the uncomfortable areas, and when you step out to places that you haven't been before, that's where the growth happens. But ego holds you back, right? You have this identity that you have of yourself, and you refuse to budge from there and try to do something else. And similar thing happened to me when it came to my podcast. My podcast became pretty successful pretty quickly, and it's obviously a great thing, but there's also a curse. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's also a curse to a little bit because I started believing like, oh, I am the podcast guy, or I know what I'm talking about all the time. I know my topic. I know everything about it. And I would not keep an open mind. I didn't have a growth mindset. I didn't leave room for the opportunity that, oh, maybe there is more to learn here. Oh, maybe there are other avenues I can explore. Maybe there's a new strategies I can explore to grow my podcast or grow my business at the time. I closed it all off because I just was so focused on that I knew what I was talking about because I had success early on, and I would not budge from there, and really slowed me down, hampered me. And even to this day, I'm paying for it because I'm not progressing as fast or not as far along as I would have been, which is fine. It's part of my journey. It's fine. But the one thing that I realized, one thing I'm learning now is like the less that the less of an identity I assume, the more of a growth mindset I have, which means I'm more open to the potential to learn new things, explore new opportunities, explore new strategies, explore new, business models, explore new businesses, and be more open to it. And it doesn't mean that I have to explore everything, but it does mean that I'm at least now open to it and not so afraid of doing things that are, quote unquote, counter to my identity. So that's what I've learned, and that's the plan moving forward: is to stop trying to identify myself so much with some image I have in my head, and don't let that identity and my ego work together to slow me down from growth, slow me down from exploring things. And I think the same thing is if you're trying to start a podcast, right? You're trying to start a podcast, or you actually have a podcast and you're trying to monetize it. You might be stuck in your head thinking that the identity you have in your head might not be a positive one. It might be one that says that there's no way you can make money from your podcast. There's no way you can make money with this style podcast. Other people make money with podcasts. Other people know how to make money, but I can't. It doesn't make sense for me to make money with a podcast. It's not right for me to make money with a podcast. You have all these kind of scripts that you have in your head about the identity that you should assume, but it's not until you stop identifying so strongly with and try to figure out what is it that you identify so much with, that you believe so deeply in your head, and challenge it. Ask yourself, like, does that have to be the case? Does everyone think this? If not everyone thinks it, why is it that other people think that? And it just kind of take time, take a pause to kind of think about that, because it really holds you back when you have identity. That it really helped me back when I have identity in my head and refuse to budge from it. So if you have a podcast, you're not even thinking about monetizing it, or maybe you believe it might be possible, or maybe you do believe it's possible. You just got to see the way. You got to see that other people have done it before, and that's what the Profit from Podcasting course is all about. It's not just me. It's not just my methods that I've learned to help me grow my podcast to six-figure income. It's also the top podcasters in the world. That we went out and got the top podcasters in the world in different categories, different niches. I'm sure you'll find one that you belong in. And we asked them, like, how do they make money with their podcast? How did they grow it to the point where it's at today? And more importantly, if they lost their podcast, how would they start a podcast? How would they launch it? And how would they build it up in a way where they can make their first $1,000 per month? How amazing would that be if you made $1,000 per month from your podcast, right? I'm not sure how much people are spending on their podcast production costs these days, but I'm sure you can cover all of it. Or maybe you're not spending anything at all. But imagine $1,000 to spend on whatever, right? On a vacation, on saving up for family, saving for a house, saving up just to have an emergency fund, or maybe you want to reinvest back into your podcast and build a business from there. $1,000 per month makes a huge difference, and that's what the point of the course is teaching people that have podcasts how to make your first $1,000 per month. Again, not just my methods, but we went out and asked the top podcasters in the world to teach what they believe, teach methods that have worked for them. These are people with real life results and have earned part-time and full-time livings off of their podcast. So hope that helps you out. Again, try to figure out what is the strong identity that you have in your head about who you are, who you should be, and challenge it. Ask yourself, like, why am I so attached to this? What happens if I don't believe this anymore? Does that mean that you'll open your mind up to other opportunities? And it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a challenge for me, and that's what I'm trying to pursue. Like, the less I identify so tightly with an identity, the more I am able to take the risk and step outside my comfort zone and learn and be open to more opportunities. And hopefully that helps you out. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.